Hello there, welcome back. Today I'm going to talk about three films that I've seen recently that have been released in 2025 that I think are worth talking about. So I'll put them all in one video rather than trying to do separate ones. Because I don't want to talk about them in detail because they're new films, so it's just much more like, go watch these films. So the first one's Flow, which was released earlier in the year in the UK. It was released in 2024 in like festivals and things in America and in Europe, but we didn't get it until 2025, so to me it's a 2025 film because I had no chance to see it until then. Flow is about a cat in an animated film that there's a flood. The world seems abandoned and of humanity, so you're not quite sure if humanity's just run away or it's died off. But it feels like a kind of fantastical world where there's a flood and the cat has to try and survive in the flood, and the title flows the flow of the water and the flow of the cat's journey as it escapes on a boat with a variety of animals that slowly come into the boat. Like you've got like a bird, you've got a dog, you've a dumb dog, you've another animal. And they all have their personalities, and they all slowly start to come together, even though they're creatures with different things, and they might get angry at each other and attack each other at times. It's never really bad. It's always like, yeah, they're animals trying to survive and a thing. So you see some dogs there alone that chase the cat, and those dogs, one of the dogs ends up traveling with the cat. And other dogs end up coming back into the story later on. So it's a sense of kind of the idea of community. You may not have to like your people in your community, but you have to try and survive with them, and they have to try and help you survive too. And there's some of these wonderful things that go through this wasteland of jungle that's getting flooded. You have these statues and a home that gets flooded with the cats on top of a cat statue, and the water's going up and up and up. And there's like a area of a brown city that was probably very high up, like an eastern city that they go through that's getting flooded. There's the highest point of like a Buddhist temple. They go up at some point, and eventually the flood starts to fall away again. And it's like after that, it's like, okay, what do the animals do now that the flood's starting to fall? Do they stay together or do they just separate? And it's like the big thing is, what do they do? I don't want to talk tons. I mean, the plot is very basic. It was R15. But I mean, everything I say, this stuff you need, it's kind of like, that's the story. But the atmosphere of it is just wonderful. So it's not about the surprises, it's about how it's done and how the details happen. And I'm trying to avoid the details, but try and give enough story about what's the general purpose of the film without, ruining what's really great about the film, which is the details. So I'd recommend Flow. Flow is wonderful. Flow has just great things going on in it. Just that the cinematography of the animation is beautiful. The atmosphere of the world is beautiful. It's not trying for realism. It's trying for a kind of logic where it's realistic enough so you can get the mannerisms of the cat, the dog, and everything else, and they can feel kind of real to you as characters, but it's not realism. It's not trying to go in and get all the details, all the drawings right. That would take forever and end up making the film feel too real for what is basically a fable. It's a fable of community that comes together for a disaster, and then what do you do after the disaster? That's the story. And that story's been told many times, but this time it's told about a cat and various other animals. So it was wonderful. So go see it. You'll really enjoy it, unless you hate animals. So next we have The Lost Bus. The Lost Bus is the new Paul Greengrass film that's in Apple. It was in a basic release in the cinema. I think all three of these films I'm talking about basically had the basic release in the cinema, but mostly you find them in digital, unless you're unless you actually were in like London or in a big city, you probably wouldn't be able to see them. You'd probably have to wait for digital. So I watched my projector just to get an idea of the scope. But The Lost Bus is about a guy who's had a failed life. It's played by Matthew McConaughey, and he's had a kind of failed life, and he's come back to where he grew up, and he's a bus driver, and he's got a son who doesn't respect him. He's trying to help his mother. His dad has died. He's going through a divorce, and he's having trouble with his son. There's some problems in the area with just generally it's a rundown area. There's some prosperous people, but there's mostly not. It is a kind of town that's made up of, the way towns are. You get the rich people and the poor people, and the rich people aren't in this town, aren't that rich, so just middle class. And basically at this point you get the forest fires that hit in 2018, and he's in a bus and he's trying to deal with the fact he's still in the training part of the bus thing. He's still learning the job, and he's getting kind of ridden hard with the person in charge to learn how to do things properly. He's trying overtime to get extra money, but he can't get it until he's more experienced. He has to get home for his son who's sick and get him some antibiotics. But he also has to take his bus in to get some fixes done. He's in the middle of all of that when the news of these fires that have hit get near the town. It's like someone has to go. All the buses are already out, but someone has to go to this area to try and get these school kids and get them out, or get them further away from the fire so the parents can pick them up and get them out of the area. So he's closest, and he doesn't really want to do it because he wants to drop his stuff off to his kid, make sure his kid's okay. But he's like, it's the proper thing to do, so he goes and does it. Unfortunately for him, the fire spreads pretty quick. So all the other buses around him get out with the kids and get out of the area. But he's stuck in the town with various other people, like fire engines, with other people trying to leave in their cars. And he's stuck in a bus with these children as the fire spreads insanely throughout the area. And he has to try and find a way to basically, because the first place he's going to is abandoned, and he thought he just picked them up and dropping them off further along the town, and that's where people pick them up. It gets abandoned because the fire spreads so quick. So he basically is, you have to get these kids out of town, and he has no communication with the outside world. He's only got a teacher who's with the kids, who he insisted come along because he needed someone to protect, to get the kids calm. So they now have to find a way out of town, and the whole town's surrounded by flames. The fire's so out of control, the firemen are basically trying to get the people out rather than trying to fight the fire because it's so out of control. And the base of the story is about him trying to get out with the kids and try to keep them safe. And it's a really good film. It's not the most amazing film, but the early stuff's good because it's like you get to know the characters, you get to know McConaughey's character, you get to know the teacher a little bit, so you know the characters before the tragedy happens. So just like Flow, this is about surviving a tragedy. And then basically that's the first 45 minutes, and it's done well. Some people complained about this even. I thought it was fine, but I watched it on a bigger screen, so maybe, I don't know, maybe it came across weird on small screen, but I thought it was fine. It didn't go on too long, you never stopped for anything. It was like, you have the day before the fire hits, and there's high winds, and you're seeing the guy's problems. Then the next day the fire hits, and you're seeing the build-up of problems until he has to take the kids and try and get them out. And it all works really well for me. And then after the fire hits, the fire stuff is astonishing how it looks. It just looks very realistic. It's like, how the hell did they do that? It's that kind of experience of like, that looks terrifying to be in, and it's a bus full of these little kids who are trying to, and it's just to try to keep them calm, and they have to go and do these various things, and they're dealing with people who are looting to start with, and then people just try to get the hell out of the area, and every route seems to be a bad idea. And because a guy grew up in the area, he knows all the shortcuts, but even then the shortcuts turn out to be like death traps. So every idea he has turns out to not be the best idea, so nothing really works. So it's this desperation of everything you put your effort into just does not work, and the fire's getting bigger, and there seems to be a very kind of limited options of survival. So this is a really good film. I highly recommend it for an experiential film. You're not going to learn anything new about humanity here. It's all about experiencing a massive fire and how someone survived it. There is a few kind of dodgy stuff at the end of sentimentality, but the film's kind of done well enough that it's like, okay, maybe they need this for the American audience. It doesn't quite feel right, but and it feels awkward because it's a British director doing it. And if you, that thing is like, British directors doing sentimentality can feel really awkward. So now we go to House of Dynamite. So if you saw my video a few weeks ago about nuclear war, the book, this film covers the early parts of that kind of scenario where it's all about what happens when the American system finds a nuclear weapon coming at them. The disadvantage for me watching this film is the fact I've just read a book about the subject and it's fresh in my mind. But it's still a well-made film. But Catherine Bigelow directed it. The only problem I have with this film is I thought the ending was a bit anticlimactic. In a sense, it's going for something, and so that there's no get-out clause for anybody. But the way they do it, I thought could have either needed more time or something else, but just didn't quite come together the way the rest of the film did. So the idea of the film is the first 10 minutes you're setting the characters up, and then you go into this cycle of 3 sections where you see the same event from 3 different angles, where it's because they once you find out there's a nuclear weapon coming towards you, you have 17 minutes to react. And so you go through different stages of government through the 17 minutes, and then you wind back, then go to another level of government through 17 minutes, then you wind back again, go to another level of government through 17 minutes, and you see how each side reacts. So characters who are the central character of one section are basically supporting characters in another section. But it's not repetitive because you get greater context for things people are doing that in the first section might feel like, why are they saying that? What's their motivation? Then in the second section you find out what their motivation is, you find out what's happening on their side. And each section is not 17 minutes each, because the film's an hour 50. And after the first 10-15 minutes you're into each section. But even within each section you're going from person to person, and you're finding what they're doing. So that you might be going with someone for a bit, and then you find out what someone else is doing during that same time. So each section's kind of like a half an hour to cover those 17 minutes from a different angle. So it's not just one person's perspective in any angle, it's basically 2 or 3 people. But they're each different levels of government. So you get the experts from the people who initially see the nuclear warhead coming, and they're contacting people in government, and they're creating, they're following the system saying, you do this, you do that, you do this, we're dealing with this. You're getting people out of the area in case there's a nuclear explosion. And it's basically a case of how does the people who have been designed to cover a nuclear attack actually function, and what are the limitations of everything? What's the limitations of the defence system? And you find out the defence system. You find out the mechanics of what the defence systems do for each thing. So by the time you get to section 2, you've already seen everything fail. And so you know this whole scenario is doomed. So in the second section, you're seeing it again from a different angle. And again, you're seeing them, how the people in the army and the higher levels of government are acting. And you find out what their protocols are, which are different from the other protocols. And you find out context for those set of protocols you originally saw from the point of view of the other people. And you see how those things interact. And things that didn't make sense first time round make sense second time round. So it's like a very good structure. and it's a sense of the president, who's played by Idris Elba, is on the phone in both of these sections. You never see him because he's travelling the whole way through this section, and they don't have a camera phone; they just have a phone telling them things because there's a problem with the technology, and there's plenty of problems with technology they have to figure out as they go. So in section 1, you see Jason Clarke as the guy in charge of the the response to nuclear attacks. He's taken out of that scenario early on and just disappears from the film. And then in the second section, you see him in a different room where he's been moved to, where he interacts with the next level command, and they're trying to deal with the Russians to say, look, we did not do this. The Russians are saying, we did not do this. And the Americans saying, we've got to come from, you did not do this. It's like how the politics they behave there, and how are they going to react to stuff that we've already found out in the first one. So it becomes much more of a political play between countries, and then pass the information on to the president. In the third section, you go all the way back, and you're dealing with the Secretary of Defence, who's played by Damien Harris, and it's Damien Harris. It's like there's so many Harrises I can never remember which one's which. And he's the Secretary of Defence, and he's just lost his wife, and I think that's the wrong name I just said. But my mind's going blank. He's a very good actor. And then Idris Elba's playing the president, and you're seeing their point of view, because the Secretary of Defence has lost his wife. He's estranged from his daughter, and his daughter lives in the area where the attack's going to take place, which turns out to be Chicago. So his problem with that, but he's also dealing with the people from the first 2 sections of the film, and dealing with the president. And the president suddenly has this thing of, what do you do with all this information that we've found out about in the first 2 sections? And then it becomes a thing of, well, he hasn't thought of any of this stuff because he's the president, but his job's so busy that until now he had like one meeting about nuclear attacks like years ago, and it's like, well, I've got to make this decision with very little information. So it just shows you from different perspectives of what everyone knows different things, and they have to try and pass information on carefully and quickly, so the president can make a decision about what to do and how to retaliate. And do you want to retaliate when you know there's only one warhead coming at you, but there might be more because there's submarines all over the world and they might come up and do more attacks? And it's like, what do you do? And the whole film is, well, what would you do in those situations? Like, this is like how insane the Cold War, not the Cold War, the nuclear war situation is. And it's obvious that the nuclear bomb is going to hit Chicago. It's going to hit. And the downside of the film, I think, is you never see the hit. They try to do a thing of you never see the nuclear bomb go off, which I think is a problem, because at the end you feel underwhelmed by the ending, because they're trying to keep it mysterious what's going to happen next after these, what's the president going to decide, and it's all about how the information passes through and what the stakes are, but they're not going to give you an easy cop out. And it's kind of like, yeah, but they don't actually show you the impact. You've seen the impact before, but I think it would have created more of an emotional thing of, well, this is millions of people dead, and it might create a more emotional complexity to not knowing what happened next. To me, that's a slight problem. It goes for the subtle ending, which I don't think the subtle ending quite works compared to what's come before. But that's my criticism. But it's a really well shot film. There's some terrific performances throughout, and everybody's good. It's very clearly written, and it's just essentially about those first like 18-20 minutes, and just how much gets done when a nuclear bomb comes at you, and how little you actually know what to do, and how the protocols aren't really as safe as they make out. And so, yeah, it's a wonderful film. It's on Netflix now. Go see it. It's really pretty sobering, so I'd definitely say go see it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. That's me for now. I'll see you all later. Bye.